So, as I've mentioned this a few times, I said I'd do a little video and I'll show you. You can also get the free PDF online of this book. It was written in 40 something, when Van Braun was still quite, being used for the skills that he had as an engineer. The guy who made rockets for Nazi Germany was flown out of Germany as part of Operation Paperclip and brought to the US and put in charge of NASA, of all things. I'm just saying this, and I know a lot of you know this, but there are people out there that do not know that he was a Nazi and made was it the Saturn rocket? Don't quote me on it, but I think it was the Saturn rocket. The Saturn V Saturn, something like that. Anyway, you learn about him in history. You learn about this guy in history, and they actually inform you about him working for NASA. But he's the guy who launched NASA. He's the guy who got, quote, NASA into space, end quote. Okay? So this is the name of the book here, Project Mars, a technical tale by Werner Van Braun. And it's completely fictional, all this, right? But this book wasn't released until 50 years after he passed away, by the way. So, I was telling you, there's a chapter in it which mentions a certain person. But I'm going to read through it. It's only 3 pages. Look, I only have 3 pages, okay? And it's the chapter 24, How Mars is Governed, page 177, right? Long and exhausting were the official receptions of the 3 Earthlings by the Martian authorities. Holt, who's the lead fiction character, right? Holt and his 2 companions finally found enough leisure to make themselves a consecutive picture of the vast variety of novel impressions. I'm really struggling to talk here. Impressions which the week of greetings had poured upon them. At no time did they sense any suspicion that their arrival out of the depths of space might be motivated by anything but the most friendly of feelings and intentions. At first, they had thought that perhaps the Martian consciousness of absolute technical superiority over Earthlings had been the foundation of the dignified courtesy and consideration shown to them by the personalities in authority. After all, an interplanetary visitation could be no ordinary event, even in their lives. But slowly, Holt and his companions began to realize that they were acting from primarily quite different motives. The pictures of life on Earth, with which had been regaled, were to them but final confirmation of the universally held, deep religious conviction that God had created man in his own image, wherever man was to be found. The efforts of Earthlings to subjugate nature on their richly endowed planet seemed to the Martians technically extremely primitive. But again, they drew the conclusion that these pitiful efforts were but an additional proof that God had inspired the doers, and that this inspiration was inseparably linked with their inner urge to action, which had been the driving power of the Martian civilization. Now here we go. Here's the part that I was telling you about. The Martian government was directed by 10 men, the leader of whom was elected by the universal suffrage for 5 years and entitled, so the name this person was given, Elon. 2 houses of parliament enacted the laws to be administered by the Elon and his cabinet. The upper house was called the Council of Elders. Now, I heard that Council of Elders and something like ding in my head. I'm like, that's a real thing, isn't it? Yes, it is. It's the Council of Elders, right? Founded by Nelson Mandela in 2017, right? And this is the way I do things, right? I hear something that's like new to me, or I'm like, oh, I heard that before somewhere. Now, you could just say, coincidence. That's just pure coincidence. It's coincidence that a book that was written in 1940s is like dropping all these names that seem to correlate with what we're seeing today, So this Council of Elders was founded by Nelson Mandela in 2017. We are an independent group of global leaders working for peace, justice, human rights, and a sustainable planet, right? But for the Irish viewers, there you go, look who's on it. The first woman president of Ireland, and a bleeding doom clock. Do you remember? She has a doom clock, this woman, telling us that we're at like the 11th hour when it comes to like climate and all that, whatever. Kofi Annan. There's some, obviously, you'd know a few of them. Jimmy Carter, right? These are all members of this, the Council of Elders. I thought that was a bit weird. But where are we now? Right? Parliament enacted laws. The upper house was called the Council of Elders and was limited to a membership of 60 persons, each being appointed for life by the Elon, as vacancies occurred by death. In principle, the method was not unlike that by which the College of Cardinals of the Roman Catholic Church is appointed. Usually the Elon choose historians, churchmen, former cabinet members or successful economic leaders who could offer lifetimes of valuable experience. The Council of Elders, however, had but limited authority. Proposed laws could be approved and disapproved as presented, but no riders. Amendments of alterations could be voted. The Council of Elders could stimulate, suggest, and test legislation. Its main purpose was not action, but rather to assume the continuity. Sorry, me words this morning or this evening. Of the basic thought on legislation, as also the protection of that thought. At Lower House, the Assembly of Deputies was devoted to action, for here demands were made and worldly battles were fought. Now, I did look a bit at into this Assembly of Deputies, and the only thing that keeps coming up is this French thing. Look, this National French Assembly Chamber of Deputies, but it's tying it into France. And funnily enough, look at the timing, 1940. It's strange, all right. Lower House Council everywhere devoted, right, blah, blah, blah. The main distinction between the Martian Assembly and analogous terrestrial legislators was the electoral system. The United Congress of the Earth was composed of representations. The United Congress of the Earth was composed of representatives regionally elected after they tried and true examples of the formerly great democratic nations. The Martian Assembly of Deputies, on the other hand, consisted of representatives of certain occupational groups. This particular electoral system originated in the structure of the entire Martian community, which, despite the close relationship between the thinking and feeling of the individual and that of his earthling brother, yet differed profoundly from the community of Earth. The ancient culture had long since emerged from the age when the welfare of its inhabitants of any region depended upon their being well and powerfully represented in the machinery of government. Next. In diameter. Is that the right one? Did I skip a page? Hang on, sorry, I think I skipped a page. Yeah, should have been this one first. This one next, I mean. This was also a fascinating page or read, you know. Considering this is all science fiction, you know. It's a fictional science fiction book. The Earth had not yet cast aside the concept that the riches of any particular region, whether in natural resources or skill and energy of its inhabitants, should be devoted primarily to the welfare and comfort of those same inhabitants. I mean, I read that line, I'm like, that's Ireland currently now, you know, that's Ireland currently right now as sort of speaking. Thus, each country of Earth attempted energetically to elect such representatives as would most effectively further its own immediate welfare and interest. Thousands of years of civilization on Mars had permitted refined technology completely removed from all regional concepts. Racial prejudice, national and local patriotism had not existed since time out of mind. Conditions of life on Mars vastly different. Sorry, people. I'll probably end up redoing this when I listen back to it. Vastly different from those of Earth, made it possible for the planet to be governed without any form of regional representation. It was possible to make any conceivable journey within the confines of the planet in less than 4 hours in the high-velocity subways. This and the fact that the very concept of nostalgia was unknown due to subterranean existence which prevented Martians from developing attachment to local scenery or dwellings, together with the standardization of all ideas and desires, had much to do with it. Other factors were mass production of all consumer goods, and synthetics had replaced organic and inorganic natural materials and foodstuffs. It's crazy. This, of course, abolished the distinction between naturally rich and naturally poor regions. So there were no longer existed the have and the have-nots, regional groupings with conflicting interests. The aging planet offered its inhabitants very few natural resources, and they had found that the individual lot could not be improved by attempting to bring their particular regions to the fore, either politically or economically. So integrated had their economy become that they had trouble afflicting one locality was immediately painful to the entire planet. So I'll read that line again, because this is talking about the banking system on Earth. So integrated had their economy become that any trouble afflicting one locality was immediately painful to the entire planet. Yeah? This, however, did not mean that utter peace and unity existed amongst the Martians, for there was only a displacement in points at issue. Instead of geographically differences of opinion, political debates went on between the representations. I said that the last time I read that. Political debates went on between representatives of various branches of science, technology, and administrative concerned with maintenance and improvement of living conditions. Trades and transports people would differ with sociologists and physicians, could not agree with ventilation engineers. Private industry could argue with government. Employees had grievances against employers, and so on. Ad infinitum. I take it that means it just continued to get worse and worse. The ultimate result of these differences was a congress of professionals from each of the complicated branches upon which highly involved society of Mars was dependent, and each branch was represented in proportion to its importance. Mars had appeared to be doing very well with this system. There were, of course, local authorities to handle local problems. The fairly underground city of Atla was the capital of Mars and had a mayor, as did New York. I don't know why you bring in New York. But the city council was composed of elected professionals, exactly parallel to the assembly of deputies. Towards the end of the week of receptions and festivities with which Holt and his two companions had been welcomed, Glenn Hubbard and the rest of the Force Landing party arrived at Atla. Now, there is another 2 or 3 pages on this one section. But I just said, I did that small video on that because I've been telling people that this guy, this ex-Nazi, right, had sort of predicted this future with Elon, or this man named Elon, and this assumption that he was going to be the one to take humanity to Mars. I mean, that's all you hear Elon talking about now, is the neck, like, what was that shirt he says? I forget, he wore a shirt, and anyway, that said something about Mars, like, time to colonize Mars or something. It's on a shirt that he wore when he was standing beside Trump, like, literally 2 weeks ago. So, it's things like this in the world, you know? You can look at this and go, there's no way, like, I'm not looking at it yet, I'm just saying, there's no way that could be a coincidence. Like, he could have named any male name of the billions and billions, like, I don't know how many different names there are for males, but you know what I mean? So there's no way it was a coincidence that he picked Elon. But I mean, the chances of Elon being the chap that gets humanity to colonize Mars, you know, And then we're basically living in them times because that's what we know that's what he wants to do. So you can look at it and say, well, then Von Braun had some sort of inside information, which he knew. He knew that this was going to happen because it's all one big script. You know, that's the thing that we keep going back to with all these politicians is they're just script readers. You know, the world's a stage and all that. And over the last, I'll be honest with you, over the last 5 years, I don't believe in coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidence, you know? There's no such thing as coincidence. So yeah, if you want to go and read that, where did I have it? I actually had the book. There's a PDF version. Project Mars. It's as simple as this. Look, PDF. And it's the first one that comes up. So if you type Project Mars PDF, you get the whole book. It says there's 281 pages, but there's a lot of pages in it that are like diagrams that Von Braun did. So even if you are interested for a bit of historical purposes, these are actual drawings, you know, by Von Braun himself. They're all in it. Kind of looks a bit like a UFO. But yeah, I said someone asked me about this connection between Elon, because I had said it a few times about Von Braun talking about. Von Braun also, if we go and look, like the guy is fascinating. Like he's fascinating. Can you say he's fascinating, or could you say, you know? Von Braun's grave, right? There's Von Braun's grave. Psalms 19:1. Yeah? Psalms 19:1. Should we have a quick read of it, will we? The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they display knowledge. There is no speech or language where their voice is not heard. Good stuff. Good stuff. Psalm 19 is dedicated to God's revelation of himself to humanity, where we've all heard verse 1, which says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament. What the hell is, right? Didn't mean to say hell in the same sentence as God, but why has the guy who, you know, why has the guy who got humanity to space putting Psalm 19 on his thing, which mentions the firmament? What, the firmament as in the dome that goes over Earth, you know? So this is why I think, personally, I think it's a very important, it's a very important bit of information for people to understand. Of course, every individual can take from it what they want, but everything's tingling when I looked into this stuff about this guy, because he also had a Carol something. Hang on, Vera Van Braun. This is a woman who's still alive, and you can go and look up what she was like as assistant. See, I googled it before because I remember looking into her. Carol something. Carol Rosin. There you go, people. Carol Rosin. This was the one who, let me get an image of her. Right? This woman here. Incredible information how this woman, she was his assistant. She was Von Braun's assistant. And I don't know if YouTube's going to let me play. I'll say it, but I'll be careful with my words, right? She said that Van Braun would often say to her, You know, she talked about these things that were a positive for humanity, right? Carol would always see the positive in humanity, right? But Van Braun would always, anytime she did talk positively about it, Van Braun would interrupt her and say, basically, that's never going to happen, Carol. It's never going to happen that everyone around the world is going to unite and overthrow whatever powers that be, okay? He said, because the mass manipulation is just after, it's too big. The manipulation of the masses is too big, right? And he said they have many cards that they play, right? These are his words, according to Carol Rosin. And she goes, the first time she heard it, obviously she go, well, what do you mean? But he said this a few times. What do you mean by that? And he said, well, they have many cards that they play. And he says, if there ever came a point where humanity found out what is really going on, he said, they would play the final threat. The final threat. The final threat. He said it 3 times, right? And then he continues to go on to say, the alien card. They're going to play the alien card in order to sort of force this ultimate alliance between all humanity. And when you go back and look at some presidents, I think was it Nixon or Reagan that said that? He said, I long for the day where we can only see all humanity uniting because of an alien threat. Do you remember him saying that? So it's definitely a card that's what I'm telling you, is that it's definitely a card that they're gonna play. They're gonna play this alien threat card at some stage. Maybe when all else fails on us and they can't quite control us, you know? To the extent, when they can't control us to the extent that they want to control us, they're gonna play an alien card. And it's gonna be this. It's going to be that. I don't know if people can see it, but I think it's a trigger word online as well, you know. So if there's another thing for you, see, they already say it. Okay, here. They already say it. He's mostly known, this guy who came up with it, mostly known for the promotion of conspiracy theory. Huh? But now, in fairness, the guy who predicted a man named Elon taking humanity to Mars has this Psalm 19:1 on his gravestone. Also had an assistant who would often say that if all else failed, they're going to play the alien card. So I'll leave it on that note. But if you just want to go and look up the Mars Project, just type it in there, Mars Project PDF. And apologies for stumbling over some words there. Some of it's a bit grainy, so I struggled a bit to interpret them. And other parts there, I'm just like, I'm not fully awake yet. I haven't had my coffee. So yeah, enjoy that bit of information and take from it what you want, wherever you want.